We're going to talk about the Humanities Networked Infrastructure Project, which is designed to jailbreak Australia's cultural data. What is it? Well, the GIF works. Okay. This is the Humanities Networked Infrastructure Project sits in a broader context around what we do with data. And I've talked a little bit about the abundance of data. Data is one of those things that a lot of people like to generalise about, and probably one of the most famous phrases about data and information is this one from Stewart Brand, which is that information just wants to be free. And I'm sure this isn't going to work, but we'll see anyway. Oh, it does. No, just the music. I could act it out, or I could get Ingrid to act it with me. To the window comes a damsel, and below Rudolph Valentino serenades her. And I wanted this, that's it. It's going to get better. And this is my kind of like copyright-free symbolic representation of the imprisonment of data and the enticement that it represents. Okay, so that's Stewart Brand. I have another theory about data, and again, we're probably not going to get any image. No. And that is that information doesn't just want to be free. You ready? You have to stand up for this. Information wants to tango. It's very hard when you've got a when you're wired. Thank you. You don't have to dip. All right, that's the fun over. Okay, who has decided that they will support us in jailbreaking Australia's cultural data? The National E-Research Collaboration Tools and Resources, Project Nectar. And we are very grateful to Nectar's support of this project. What Nectar have asked us to do is fund something called a virtual laboratory. And a virtual laboratory is in many ways a kind of an untried concept in this space, okay? And I'll talk a little bit about what a VL is. So the virtual laboratory program for Nectar was made up of about $14 million? All up? I can't remember. Of which this project was given a fairly significant chunk. So Nectar are very supportive of work being done in the humanities space. And in fact, they've done a second round of VL funding and funded yet another humanities virtual laboratory. So that's 2 in the works. And this is a pretty fabulous recognition of the work being done by people like Gavin and Tim and all those progenitors of the digital humanities in Australia, because we are now being recognised as making a sizable and substantial contribution to national infrastructure, national digital infrastructure, and that includes this particular project. So, but what is a VL? Might mute now. There are some precedents. There are things called virtual research environments, which have been tested, particularly in the UK, through JISC. It's an initiative, a UK initiative in which universities subscribe jointly to solving common e-research problems. And so they've been in the virtual research environment space for quite a while, and also had a program of funding them. But on the whole, these VREs, as they're called, tended to involve researchers doing research in the same discipline or the same domain, and creating collaborative spaces in that area. There's the vision, if you can read it. Another example of a kind of lab is this research-oriented social environment, which is just an individual academics initiative in America, Alan Liu. And another one, which is going to be completely meaningless to you because I can't play video, is this thing called a collaboratory. But there is, if you search YouTube on collaboratory, you'll find this particular video. And it explains in fabulous English as a second language musical intonation what a collaboratory is. So this is a European initiative, largely based, I think this particular exemplar is based in Holland. And it's, again, focused on researchers who are working in the same area or on a common problem. Okay, we are undertaking a slightly different approach to a virtual laboratory because the HuNI VL covers a very, very broad range of humanities disciplines. And so what we're asking of our VL is to bring researchers together to collaborate across disciplines, not just within them. And this is what we think it might look like. And I won't read it because it's very boring to actually read PowerPoints. It would be good if the PowerPoint behaved. Anyway. So one of the things we're asking of participants in a VL to be focused around is problem solving, collaborative problem solving. And that in some ways is a slightly new approach for the humanities. There are some of us that have been doing it and have done it historically, but often we have a tradition in the humanities of sort of lone wolf scholarship, where you go and do a survey of something and yourself and have a think about it and maybe collect some resources around it and then analyse and evaluate and publish by yourself. We're saying if we have a VL in the humanities, we're going to be able to change the types of problems we can solve simply through the act of collaboration and collaboration across disciplines. So we have a very ambitious program that we think the VL will support. So that's all very, very nice. And ambitious and aspirational and so on. What are the kind of challenges that this sort of VL might encounter? Fundamental to getting a VL off the ground is the challenge of interoperability. So the HuNI VL, the 13 partner organisations, represent something like, I can't remember, 28 data sets. And those data sets were all built in different places by different people using different technologies, described differently about completely different things. And in order for us to get people to work on those data sets, we need to get them to interoperate. So most people then focus on the technical problem of interoperation, and you're going to hear a little bit about that when Connell talks. But actually there are some other challenges prior to that. The first really is this one. Or getting organisations to accept interoperability as a philosophical orientation. Any of us who have worked in universities know that this is a challenge. Even getting universities to interoperate across schools or across faculties is hard enough. Getting the left hand and the right hand to actually talk, to tango, whatever your operative metaphor might be, is a tough challenge. We're very fortunate in that the custodians of the 28 data sets within the HuNI VL have a very strong orientation to collaboration and a very altruistic approach to working together at this level. And in a sense, we're trying very hard to forge a new organisational culture between universities. And it's not just universities, it's also cultural institutions, it's development agencies who will be doing a lot of the technical development for the HuNI project. Second challenge is the semantic level, and Ingrid will talk more about this. And that's the meaning of what the different data sets are trying to say or do or describe. And that differs. What I call a venue in English, there is no word for venue in Dutch. So a venue in a Dutch database is never called a venue. In fact, it's called a lot of things. So someone has to sit down and map all of that and work out how to make those different meanings correlate. And then there's the technical level, which, as I said, Connell is going to talk about. So just to quickly skip through those, here are our institutional partners. That was number one. Here's a little bit of thinking around the importance of integrating meaning. Both Nigel Thrift and Patrick Svensson are two very interesting thinkers in this space. I shall. This is, I guess, what Connell and Ingrid are going to talk about a little bit later. Have you got this slide up in your presentation, Ingrid? No?
No.
Okay. So what you see here are the original data sources on the left, and then the technical conversion that has to occur for them to actually technically interoperate or speak to each other. And then this big purple space is the space where we start to map the meanings and ontologies within those data sets and how to get them to speak meaningfully to each other, as distinct from technically. And one of the contributions that HuNI will really be making is in this space. Because we're using such diverse data sets, it's a challenge to some of the existing interoperation ontologies that already exist. And then there's the kind of the way the user interacts then with the interoperated data. And that was a very early diagram of the architecture, which we might possibly have massaged, to use the popular term of the day since. And here's just some examples of the different data sets that are contained. And this is not exhaustive. As I said, there are about 28. So OSLIT, the ADB, the DAO, Bonza, Stage, the Encyclopedia of Australian Science. This one's not actually in it, but I like it. CARP, which we've heard a little bit about today, and so on. And again, this is something you will see a little later, but I just put it up so that you know. We have a wiki for our project, and you can visit that and find out a lot of information about what's going on. And Connor will explain more about why it's called Apodictor, please. Okay, and my final slide. If you do want to know anything more from a Deakin perspective about our involvement in this project, please feel free to email me or visit our website, just not this week, because it's just been cut across to the Deakin server. So if you could wait until next week before you look at the website. So that's really all I wanted to say. This is a 13 co-developer cooperated project. There are 9 project team staff. It's worth $1.33 million of federal government funding, plus the contributions of the different partners. So it's well over a $2 million project. We aim to have the technology completed by the end of next year. But we also are looking at how we might then carry the project into the future beyond that.